The truck market in 2025 is shifting fast, and not in the way most automakers hoped. While some pickups are breaking sales records, others are being left behind by frustrated owners who say enough is enough. And here's the real shocker. Even mechanics, the people who make money fixing these trucks, are telling buyers to stay away. That alone should make you pay attention. Let's start with the first truck on the chopping block, the Chevrolet Silverado 1500 with a 2.7L turbo engine. On paper, it looks like a great deal: strong torque, lower price than the V8, and better fuel economy. But in reality, owners are complaining about reliability issues, turbo lag, and costly repairs when that small engine is pushed hard hauling or towing. Mechanics are seeing the same pattern: blown turbos, oil leaks, and expensive fixes way too soon for a work truck. And that's why so many are ditching them early. Next up is the Ram 1500 Eco Diesel. When Ram introduced the diesel option, it sounded perfect: more torque, better fuel economy, and strong towing numbers. But in practice, owners are fed up with emission system failures, DEF issues, and sky-high repair bills once the warranty runs out. Even worse, Stellantis has now discontinued the Eco Diesel altogether, which means future parts availability is going to be a nightmare. Dealers are already lowballing trade-ins, and owners don't want to be stuck with a truck that's both unreliable and unsupported. Another one falling from grace is the Ford Ranger. Yes, Ford brought it back with big hype, but now complaints are piling up. Owners report transmission issues, electrical glitches, and a ride that feels more cramped and rough compared to rivals. Mechanics are blunt about it. The 10-speed transmission used in the Ranger is showing up in their shops far too often, and when it fails, the cost is jaw-dropping. With newer mid-size trucks like the Toyota Tacoma and Chevy Colorado offering better reliability and features, Ranger owners are cutting their losses. The fourth truck that's getting dumped left and right is the Nissan Titan. This one's not just about reliability, it's about relevance. Nissan never kept the Titan competitive. Outdated technology, poor fuel economy, and lower resale value make it a truck that's just not worth keeping around. Mechanics aren't seeing them as much because there just aren't that many left on the road, but the ones they do see often come in with nagging electrical and drivetrain issues. Nissan already announced they're killing the Titan, and owners don't want to be stuck with an orphan truck that's going to tank in value. And finally, we've got the Jeep Gladiator. On the surface, it looks cool, a Wrangler with a truck bed. But once the honeymoon phase ends, reality kicks in. Owners are realizing it's overpriced, underpowered for towing, and not nearly as practical as other mid-size trucks. Add in the constant Jeep reliability headaches, from electrical gremlins to suspension issues, and mechanics are warning buyers it's basically a Wrangler with more problems and less utility. Resale values are already dropping fast, and many owners are bailing before the repairs start adding up. The truck market in 2025 is shifting faster than anyone expected, and not in the way most automakers hoped. Trucks have always been seen as the most reliable, toughest vehicles on the road, the kind of machine you could depend on for work, family, and everything in between. But this year, something different is happening. Owners are frustrated, trade-ins are piling up, and online forums are filled with warning posts from people who say, "I'll never buy this truck again." And here's where it gets serious. Even mechanics, the very people who earn their living fixing these vehicles, are telling buyers to stay away from certain models because they're just not worth the headache. If the people who profit off repairs are saying, "Don't buy it," you know there's a real problem. The Chevrolet Silverado 1500 with a 2.7L turbo engine. On paper, it looked like a smart option: plenty of torque, a cheaper alternative to the V8, and better fuel economy for daily driving. Chevy marketed it as the future of pickup engines, and buyers jumped in thinking they'd get the same power and reliability in a smaller, more efficient package. But real-world results tell a different story. Owners have been complaining about turbo lag, weak towing performance compared to the V8, and engines that just don't hold up under heavy loads. Even worse, when problems hit, they hit hard: blown turbos, oil leaks, and timing chain issues that show up far too early in the truck's life. Mechanics across the country are reporting a steady stream of 2.7L Silverados in their shops, and they're all saying the same thing: these engines are simply not built to last if you actually use your truck like a truck. Add in repair bills that can easily cross several $1,000s, and you see why so many owners are cutting their losses and dumping these trucks while they can still get some trade-in value. Next on the list is the Ram 1500 Eco Diesel, a truck that had so much promise but ended up as one of the most regretted buys in recent years. When Ram first rolled out the Eco Diesel, it sounded like the perfect option for truck lovers. Better torque, improved fuel economy, and serious towing capabilities, all while saving money at the pump. For a while, it built up hype. But now the dark side of ownership is impossible to ignore. These trucks are plagued with emission system problems, clogged EGR coolers, DEF fluid issues, and expensive injector failures. Once the warranty ends, the cost to repair even basic issues skyrockets, leaving owners with massive bills they never saw coming. And here's the kicker. Stellantis has officially discontinued the Eco Diesel, which means long-term support, parts availability, and resale value are all heading downhill fast. Mechanics are already telling people who bring them in, if you can get rid of it now, do it, because the longer you hold on to it, the harder it's going to be to maintain. That's why so many owners are scrambling to dump their Eco Diesel Rams in 2025 before they become nothing more than expensive paperweights. Another truck that's falling from grace is the Ford Ranger. Ford made a big deal about bringing the Ranger back to the U.S. market, and at first, it had strong sales. People wanted a mid-sized truck that carried Ford's legendary nameplate and promised modern performance. But now, a few years in, the complaints are stacking up and they're not small ones. Owners have been reporting transmission issues with the 10-speed automatic, electrical problems that leave them stranded, and interior build quality that feels far behind rivals. The Ranger was supposed to compete with trucks like the Toyota Tacoma, Chevy Colorado, and Nissan Frontier, but instead, it's become known as the truck you regret buying once the repair bills start rolling in. Mechanics are especially wary of that 10-speed transmission. They're seeing failure after failure, often way earlier than expected, and replacing it can cost thousands of dollars. Add to that a cramped cabin, a stiff ride, and outdated tech compared to what's now available in 2025, and it's clear why many Ranger owners are jumping ship. They don't want to wait until a major breakdown forces their hand, so they're getting rid of them now while they still can. Then we've got the Nissan Titan, a truck that never quite lived up to its name. Nissan tried to carve out a place in the full-size truck market, but the Titan has been falling behind for years. Owners are complaining about outdated technology, poor fuel economy, and sluggish performance compared to American rivals like the F-150, Silverado, and Ram. But the real nail in the coffin is resale value. Titans simply don't hold it. Trade-in offers are embarrassingly low, and dealers don't want to take them in because they know they'll sit on the lot. Mechanics say the Titans they do see often show up with electrical issues, drivetrain problems, and expensive repairs that make owners regret buying one in the first place. And now with Nissan announcing that the Titan is officially being killed off, owners are rushing to sell before the bottom falls out completely. Nobody wants to be stuck with a discontinued truck that will lose support, tank in value, and become harder and harder to maintain. For many, the Titan is already a burden, and 2025 is the year they're saying goodbye. Finally, let's talk about the Jeep Gladiator, the truck that looked like it could be the perfect blend of rugged Wrangler fun and practical pickup utility. At launch, it was hyped as something unique, a lifestyle truck for people who wanted adventure and versatility. And at first, sales were strong because, well, it's a Jeep with a truck bed. But once the novelty wore off, reality set in. Owners are realizing that the Gladiator is overpriced compared to other mid-size trucks, underwhelming when it comes to towing and payload, and plagued with the same reliability issues that Jeep is notorious for. From electrical gremlins and steering issues to suspension problems and constant trips to the shop, the Gladiator just doesn't hold up as a practical, everyday truck. Mechanics are blunt about it. They see these trucks come in for problems far too often, and they warn new buyers that unless they're buying it purely for looks, they're going to regret it. On top of that, resale values are crashing fast. People who paid top dollar for a Gladiator a couple of years ago are now finding out the hard way that nobody wants them on the used market. That's why so many are getting rid of them in 2025, before the headaches get worse and the value drops even further. So why are these trucks losing trust so quickly in 2025? The answer comes down to three major factors: cost-cutting from automakers, rising repair costs, and changing buyer expectations. Trucks used to be simple, rugged, and built to take a beating. But in the race to make them cheaper to build, more fuel-efficient, and packed with flashy tech, manufacturers have cut corners in ways that owners are now paying for. Turbocharged 4 cylinders replacing durable V8s, complicated emission systems that fail constantly, and transmissions with too many gears packed into a fragile design. All of these so-called advancements are breaking down faster than ever, and the people who buy these trucks are left holding the repair bill. The second issue is cost. Trucks are no longer affordable to fix once they're out of warranty. Mechanics are warning owners that repairs which used to be a couple $100 are now costing thousands. A failed turbo. That's not just a simple repair. That's often a $4,000 or $5,000 job. Transmission failure on a Ranger? Easily over $6,000 to replace. Even something as basic as emissions-related issues on a Ram Eco Diesel can balloon into thousands in parts and labor, and the worst part is these problems aren't rare anymore, they're common. That's why mechanics are warning people, not because they don't want the work, but because they see the heartbreak on their customers' faces when they realize they're sinking more money into repairs than their truck is worth. The third reason is that buyer expectations have changed. In 2025, people want a truck that can do everything. They want it to be reliable enough for work, comfortable enough for family life, and affordable to maintain long-term. But when a truck fails on one or more of those points, owners lose patience quickly. The Jeep Gladiator might look cool, but when it struggles to tow a boat or constantly needs electrical repairs, owners quickly realize they would have been better off with a Tacoma or Colorado. The Nissan Titan may be cheap on the used market, but nobody wants to buy something with no future and no support. And the Silverado's 2.7L turbo engine? Buyers are realizing that saving a few miles per gallon means nothing when the engine is in the shop more often than it's on the road. And here's the big picture. Resale value is crashing for these trucks because the market knows they're risky. Dealers don't want them, used buyers don't trust them, and auction prices are dropping. Owners who are paying attention see the writing on the wall. The longer they keep these trucks, the more they'll lose. That's why so many are rushing to dump them in 2025 before the value bottoms out completely. In some cases, people are even taking a loss just to get out, because they'd rather eat that cost now than face endless repairs and even lower resale later. This shift is a warning for anyone thinking about buying a new truck this year. It shows that flashy marketing, new engine designs, and bold promises don't always translate to real-world durability. Mechanics are already telling us which trucks to avoid, but the final proof is in the behavior of owners themselves. When you see entire groups of people dumping the same trucks at the same time, that's not coincidence, that's a red flag. So, what should you do if you're in the market for a truck in 2025? The first rule is simple. Buy with your head, not just your heart. A lot of people fell in love with the looks of the Jeep Gladiator, or the promises of the Ram Eco Diesel, or the future-ready image of the Silverado's turbo 4-cylinder. But trucks are supposed to be long-term investments. They're supposed to last you years, maybe even decades, if you take care of them. If a truck has a reputation for expensive failures, poor resale, or being discontinued by its manufacturer, it's not a safe bet, no matter how good the deal looks up front. The second piece of advice is to stick to proven engines and drivetrains. Time-tested V6s and V8s may not always give you the best fuel economy numbers on paper, but they've earned their reputation for reliability. That's why mechanics still recommend trucks like the Toyota Tacoma, the Ford F-150 with the naturally aspirated 5.0 V8, or the Chevrolet Silverado with the 5.3 or 6.2 V8 engines. These setups might be older, but they're dependable. And when something does break, it's usually a repair that's straightforward and much cheaper than fixing a fragile turbo or emission system. Third, don't overlook resale value. Trucks are some of the few vehicles where resale matters as much as purchase price. If you buy something like a Nissan Titan or a Jeep Gladiator, you're almost guaranteed to lose money fast, because demand just isn't there. On the other hand, trucks like the Toyota Tacoma, Toyota Tundra, and even certain trims of the Ford Super Duty are holding their value like gold. That means even years down the line, you can trade or sell without feeling like you've thrown your money away. The fourth tip is to listen to the mechanics. Nobody sees the truth about these trucks more than the people fixing them every day. When a mechanic says, "Don't buy this," it's not because they're being dramatic. It's because they've seen the same failures again and again, and they know what it's going to cost you. Mechanics warned people years ago about the issues with the Ford Powerstroke diesels and the Chevy 2.7L Turbo, and now those warnings are proving true. If you really want peace of mind, find out what local mechanics in your area are seeing the most, and what they recommend avoiding. And finally, don't rush into a deal just because it looks cheap. In 2025, a lot of dealers are slashing prices on trucks that don't sell, like the Nissan Titan or leftover eco-diesel Rams. Sure, you might save money up front, but that savings disappears fast if you end up with a truck that's constantly in the shop. Sometimes spending a little more on a proven, reliable truck is the smarter financial move in the long run. At the end of the day, the message is clear: not all trucks are created equal anymore. Some are money pits in disguise, and owners are dumping them for good reason. But if you do your research, stick with proven models, and pay attention to what mechanics are warning about, you can still get a truck that's dependable, capable, and worth every dollar. Now that we've covered the trucks owners are dumping in 2025, let's flip the script and talk about the ones that people are actually holding on to. The trucks that mechanics respect, that buyers trust, and that are still proving themselves as long-term investments. Because while some trucks are falling apart, others are building reputations that just get stronger year after year. At the top of that list is the Toyota Tacoma. For years, the Tacoma has been mocked for being underpowered compared to rivals, but here's the truth. Owners don't care, because the reliability is unmatched. These trucks are known for lasting well past 200,000 miles with basic maintenance, and their resale values are through the roof. In fact, in many markets, a used Tacoma sells for nearly as much as a brand new one, and that says everything you need to know. Mechanics rarely see them in their shops for major problems, and when they do, repairs are simple and cheap compared to what you'd face with a turbocharged or diesel rival. In 2025, with the updated model now on sale, the Tacoma remains one of the safest bets in the truck world. Next is the Ford F-150, but specifically with the 5.0L Coyote V8. While Ford has pushed its EcoBoost turbo engines hard, the 5.0 V8 continues to prove itself as the workhorse of the lineup. It's naturally aspirated, less complicated, and built to last. Mechanics love it because it's far less likely to suffer the catastrophic failures that plague turbo models. Owners love it because it delivers consistent towing power and holds its value better than most configurations. If you want an F-150 that you won't regret, the 5.0 is the one to choose in 2025. Another truck that deserves attention is the Toyota Tundra, especially the older V8 models still dominating the used market. Toyota recently moved the Tundra into hybrid turbo territory, and while it's showing promise, mechanics and buyers still trust the proven V8 versions more. These trucks have a reputation for running forever with minimal issues, and just like the Tacoma, their resale value is insane. Even a 10-year-old Tundra can command serious money because buyers know it's one of the most reliable full-size trucks ever built. We also have to talk about the Chevy Silverado and GMC Sierra with the 5.3L or 6.2L V8 engines. Unlike the smaller turbo four-cylinder, these engines are tried and true. They've been refined over decades and are still some of the most reliable in the GM lineup. Yes, they drink more fuel, but they deliver real truck power and durability. Mechanics recommend them because they can handle towing and hauling without constantly breaking down, and unlike the 2.7L, they don't suffer from the same long-term reliability issues. In 2025, if you want a GM truck you can trust, the V8 is still the way to go. And finally, we can't ignore the Ram 2500 and 3500 with the Cummins diesel. Unlike the eco-diesel disaster, the heavy-duty Ram trucks with the legendary Cummins inline-6 continue to prove themselves as some of the toughest trucks on the road. These engines are known for racking up 300,000 miles or more when properly maintained. Mechanics respect them because they're built for real work, not just marketing hype, and owners who need serious towing power swear by them. In 2025, if you're buying a heavy-duty truck for long-term use, the Cummins Ram is still one of the smartest investments you can make. So while some trucks are being dumped left and right, others are holding their ground, keeping their value, and proving why they've built such loyal followings. The lesson here is simple. Not all trucks are equal, and in 2025, you need to be careful about which side of that line you land on. At the end of the day, 2025 is shaping up to be a year of winners and losers in the truck world. Some trucks are losing value fast, stranding owners with expensive repairs, and forcing mechanics to warn buyers away. Others are proving why they've built such loyal reputations, holding strong in resale, and staying out of the repair shop. The difference between the two is massive, and if you're not paying attention, you could end up on the wrong side of that divide. What we're seeing right now is a wake-up call. Trucks are no longer bulletproof just because they're big and expensive. Automakers are cutting corners, chasing fuel economy mandates,